Welcome back to Legitimate Targets, everybody. This is episode number 8, and today I have on my good friend, an amazing guest, someone you all know and love, Jimmy Dore. If you haven't heard about him, you're probably living under a rock, but he is a comedian, an acclaimed comedian. He is a podcast host. He's the host of the Jimmy Dore Show with millions of followers online. He calls himself a former pothead comedian, former pothead, still a comedian, but I think he is a truth teller and an amazing guy. So without further ado, let's bring on Jimmy Dore. Jimmy, I hope you're doing well. My first question for you today is, given all of the madness that we are watching unfold, you have a genocide going on in Gaza, a literal Holocaust. You've got the Russia-Ukraine conflict that the West and NATO is trying to escalate into World War III. And, the Western world is crumbling in the process of all of this. And you got Trump and Kamala, which seem intent on really not changing a whole lot. Do you regret not running for president of the United States?
No, after seeing what's happening, after seeing 2 assassination attempts, a third one just got caught and thwarted. They demonetized Russell Brand just for speaking up against all the hit pieces on RFK Jr., all the crazy stuff they're pulling out of. Yeah, no. They would have they would have destroyed me. I'm not big enough I'm not a Kennedy. I don't have millions of dollars. I don't have anything. I have, even my old friends in Hollywood, they don't understand what I'm doing. They think I'm a Trumper, and they see things in a binary. They still pat themselves in the back for voting for Kamala Harris. And literally today, I had a friend on Twitter who I've known since I got to Los Angeles. And he said to me on, all kinds of garbage about you've got a horrible job turning Democrats into Republicans, and enjoy your kingdom of dirt, and all kind of like, holy and so, they have to misrepresent everything I'm doing. No, I'm turning Republicans into people waking up to the two-party duopoly and fighting against oligarchy, and seeing that half the country isn't their enemy, that we share a common enemy. That's what I'm getting them to do. I'm getting some of them to embrace Medicare for all. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm trying to get them to see that, to embrace free speech fully, not just for the speech they like, but for the speech of the people they hate, like the Palestinian protesters. That's my message. So that happens now on a weekly basis. Somebody who I would not have expected to come at me and attack me and hate on me does it so publicly. All these people have my phone number. They could just call me and say, "Hey, Jimmy, what do you think? Why do you think? Is this true?" Some of them do. Some of my, at least one of my friends does. He's like, "Hey, what's this about? I hear you're taking that ivermectin horse dewormer." And then I get to explain to him that it's a Nobel Prize winning medicine that's on the WHO list of essential medicines, that it's been prescribed billions of times, and it's saved billions of lives. And the reason why you think negatively of it is because you watched pharma funded media that had to downplay its miracle drugness, which is, it's looked at as a miracle drug in medicine before COVID. And so then when I explained it to him that you've been propagandized, he's like, "Oh, I didn't know any of that." Yeah, I know. Now even tools like Chris Cuomo admit that we were lied to about ivermectin. No, you lied to people about ivermectin anyway. So that's a long, winding answer to your question. Do I regret not running? No, I do not. I can reach I'm reaching a lot of people. I tour the country constantly, and these people come up to me, and this isn't a humble brag or patting myself on the back, but these people are appreciative of someone who they might even disagree with on a lot of policies, like me. And some of them have tears in their eyes, and they thank me for doing what I'm doing, especially the people who are vaccine injured. and they thank me for standing up and being their voice. So I think I can do that effectively the way I'm doing it right now. And if I would have, look what they do to me now. That's the point of what this stories. Look what they even have people who've known me for 30 years turn on me. Like, that's how powerful the propaganda is. So I literally, this guy said to me today, I said, you are supporting someone funding a genocide in Palestine. You're the moral superior of nobody. And his response was, she's not the president of the Middle East. That's a 60-year-old person in comedy who does cut. That's how indoctrinated they are. They just ingest the propaganda and they vomit it right back out. It's amazing. It's amazing. And you wonder why people are, I wonder every day, why aren't people more upset about how much they've been lied to? Because they believe them. They believe the lies about ivermectin. They believe the lies about the vaccine. They believe the lies about Ukraine. They believe all the lies. They believe Russiagate still. They think it's real. It's amazing. And the people who I thought would stand up, people like Cornel West, comedians, the top comedians who I was friends with in the country, the top comedian, the late night comedians, none of them said a word. None of them will say a word. It's been a heartbreak. It's depressing, actually, to me. I have to focus my mind all the time. Like, I have to remind myself to put my mind on positive things and not negative things. And because whatever you put your mind on expands. But it's very hard. It's very hard. I never imagined to be this let down before in my life. I always thought I'd fight the powerful, but I didn't know my own peers were such lemmings, were such brainwashed idiots. And they like it. It's been tough in a lot of ways, but there's people like you who I see what you've gone through. There's people like Russell Brand. I see what he's gone through. Tucker Carlson gave up everything. He gave up the #1 show in all of news in the country to tell the truth. Right? Let's remember, look at Julian Assange. So what I've gone through and what he's gone through, it doesn't even compare. And so, let's remember, I have to always remind people that Tucker Carlson didn't lose his job because he was lying about war. When he was repeating the establishment lies about war, they gave him his own show on MSNBC. And guess who his big guest was? Rachel Maddow used to be his favorite guest. Then they gave him another show on CNN. Then they gave him his own show on Fox. It's when he started telling the truth about the war. And then when he told the truth about COVID and Big Pharma, that was the final straw. So, no, I don't. I mean, it's my point is, I guess it's tough enough. I didn't need to run for president. I've interviewed presidential candidates on my show. I get my message out. So, and that's what an independent run for president would have been anyway, just a chance to get my message out. And I feel like I could get it out. And what needs to happen now is workers need to reject the establishment. You see how fast they shut down that dock workers, right? So the port workers, you see how fast they had to shut that down. And because they don't want workers to get the idea that they have power. That's the last thing they want. And that's why they completely met their needs. And that's why now you see them open borders, they're going to take the power away from workers. That's exactly what this is about. Democrats, I have video after video, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, talking about the scourge of illegal immigration. And Chuck Schumer saying if you call them undocumented instead of illegal, that the American people see through that, and they see that you're not really committed to fighting it. That's Chuck Schumer when he was already the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. Used to say, just a few years ago, used to say that stuff. So they've all spun around, and why? It's because they're all in the pocket of Wall Street, and Wall Street wants to suppress wages. And how do you do that? You flood the country. Bill Clinton is saying, he just said yesterday that, we need to have immigrants, a flood of immigrants into our country because we're not making babies enough in America. Well, why do you think that is? Why do you think people aren't having babies? Because they don't feel secure enough economically. Half the country right now, they'll say they'll never be able to own a house. So you're going to flood the country with 10 million more people while the people here can't afford a house? So I think a lot of the people are waking up to it. Like I was telling you before, half the Hispanic vote in America is now going to Trump. Over half. So it's that's heartening to me that people are seeing through it. I don't think Trump is an answer, but what it tells me is that people know we need a border. When I have Dennis Kucinich come on my show, a guy who was so far left, the Democrats gerrymandered him out of his own congressional seat. When he comes on my show and I ask him, what do we think we should do about the border? And he says, we have to close it down. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. I'm like, oh my God. So it's real. And people, I think we need the workers now to rise up. And they flexed their muscle. And it's just when their unions are starting at Starbucks, and there was a union on Staten Island against Amazon, and the port workers stood up. As soon as workers started to find their power again, they opened the border and they flood the country with illegal immigrants. And that's not to take out your ire at the illegal immigrants. If I was those people in that desperate situation, I would come in too. It's what they want is they want working class people to turn their attention towards even poorer people. They want us to fight amongst ourselves, so we take our eye off the establishment and the oligarchs that are actually running this oligarchy. And let's remember, it is an oligarchy. That's not hyperbole. That was proven by a Princeton study over a decade ago, that your vote doesn't matter. You live in an oligarchy. You don't live in a democracy. That's the joke, that they're putting democracy on the ballot. Democracy hasn't been on the ballot for decades and decades. You live in a corporate run state. It's an oligarchy run by a handful of billionaires. And it's the entire Western world now. So I guess I'll wait for your second question.
No, I hear what you're saying. It makes sense. They definitely would have tried to destroy you, cancel your life, or worse, do what they're trying to do to Trump, and they would have maybe tried to kill you even. You definitely pose much more of a threat to the establishment than Donald Trump ever will. But I'm curious, you live in California right now, so as the saying goes, your vote doesn't really count for much of anything given the Electoral College. But if you didn't live in California, if you lived in a swing state perhaps, would you consider voting for Donald Trump as a FU to the establishment? Or who would you vote for if you were in a state in which your vote counted?
I can't vote for someone who espouses to keep funding a genocide. I have to look at myself in the mirror. And although I do think in the Democrats are the greater evil. I agree with the Black Agenda report. Glenn Ford, made that case. Margaret Kimberly, who's made that case. I agree with them that the Democrats can do more evil. They're the more effective evil. Just like Bill Clinton could pass NAFTA when the Republicans couldn't. Just like Barack Obama kicked 5.1 million families out of their houses while he made sure the bankers got their bonuses and nobody complained. Just like Barack Obama dropped more bombs than George Bush and nobody noticed. And I saw, of all people, Peter Dow, who was a Clinton hitman. And he said that, he echoed what I've been saying now for over a year. At least when a Republican's president and they're warmongering, at least you can get Democrats to protest that sometimes. When a Democrat's doing it, they just go to sleep. Nobody's protesting. They believe the propaganda about the Ukraine war. That's how dumb they are. That's how brainwashes them, because the Democrats doing it. So at least J.D. Vance, Bobby Kennedy, and Donald Trump vow to end the war in Ukraine. Whether they're sincere about that or not, I don't know. But, Bobby Kennedy gave a speech when he endorsed Donald Trump's presidency. and he gave a speech at a stadium in Arizona full of Republican voters. And Bobby Kennedy talked about ending the $1 billion foreign wars, ending the Ukraine war, ending the $1 billion and investing that money back at home. And everyone cheered. He talked about getting the corruption out of the captured regulatory agencies, and the entire stadium cheered. He talked about taking on big agra and cleaning up our food supply and cleaning up our water supply and addressing the chronic illness epidemic and the obesity epidemic in America that's affecting and the whole place cheered. Those are things that Democrats are supposed to talk about. They wouldn't dare talk about that stuff now. And so it doesn't matter to me as much if Trump is really sincere about those policies. What matters to me is that there was a stadium full of Republican voters cheering on things that Democrats could cheer on, that I could cheer on. And so, again, proving the point once again that we actually have more in common than we have that separates us, and we share a common enemy, and that common enemy is the oligarchy. And I mean that in a real way. Your neighbor's not your enemy. They want you to turn your ire and your fear towards your enemy, towards your neighbor. Not like when Kamala Harris says we have more in common than divides us. She means people like Dick Cheney and George Bush and her. She doesn't mean people like workers and truck drivers and UPS workers and Amazon workers. She doesn't mean they have something in common, and Uber drivers. She doesn't mean they have something in common with Kamala Harris. She means the oligarchs. She means Dick Cheney. She means Wall Street, the Republican warmongers. She means she has a common with them. She doesn't mean she has anything in common with workers. Our workers have more in common with each other. And I was at the Democratic convention. It was depressing. When I was there in 2016, half the Democratic voters and half the Democratic delegates there had voted against the Democratic establishment and had voted for overthrowing the Democratic Party's leadership and to get rid of corporate money that runs the party. So it was a raucous convention, and there was lots of friction and lots of talk about policy in the future. This last one, it was a Stepford Wives convention. It was a bunch of brainwashed, brain dead robots. They were zombies. They didn't care about anything. They're cheering on billionaires. They're cheering on billionaires and more war and corporations, and they make abortion sound like it's a Christmas present. It was depressing. I had a pass to go there every day. I could only go there one day. Honest to God, it depressed me that much. So on the way out, though, there were 3 cops. They weren't Chicago cops. They were, I don't know what kind of cops. They might have been state police or county police, but they were in plain clothes and they had guns on their hip. And as I was walking out, I was depressed. One of them stopped and said, "Hey, Jimmy, you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing." And that really gave me, I needed that. And it's like, wow, that's what we need. We need the police and the civil servants and the workers to wake up and realize that they have more in common with each other than they do with the oligarchy, with their political leadership, with the people on the television. I'll often ask my friends, like I asked my friend today who turned on me and misrepresented everything I've been doing at my show so he could hate on me and support a warmonger like Kamala Harris, who kept Black people in prison past their sentences, even though she was ordered by a court to release people in California, and she didn't because she wanted to keep them in for slave labor. So slavery's not over. And anyway, and what I like to say to those people who support Kamala Harris, hey, is there anything you hear on MSNBC or CNN that you don't believe? Is there anything? You know what they say back to me? Nothing. I started asking that question when the Ukraine war started, when I would bump into comedians and all this stuff, and they would just repeat exactly what they're told about the Ukraine war. And I'd say to them, is there anything you hear on CNN you don't believe? And they never say anything back to that. Because there isn't. And I think they realize how stupid that is in the moment, and then they wipe it out of their brain. Anyway, so that's, to me, the exciting thing is that there's stadium full of Republicans cheering on things that the establishment doesn't want you to talk about, that Democrats will never talk about. And it makes me realize that we got to find a way to break through that. And so we can come together. I'll join with anyone to do right and nobody to do wrong.
No, I fully agree with you. I mean, I don't understand how any American at this point in time could be voting for someone who is going to fund and condone, aid, and abet a genocide, but I'm sure millions of Americans are going to do just that. But I am still concerned that even though you have RFK Jr., you have Trump, you have J.D. Vance that are saying generally correct things about the conflict in Ukraine, that we need peace, we need to bring it to an end, so on and so forth. And these comments are being met with widespread support from the Republican base. It wasn't too long ago when the Republican base and the Democrat base alike was all cheering on Ukraine. And if any politician said anything that was pro-Ukraine, for a year after February 24th, 2022, everyone would applaud. Now, of course, people have woken up. They understand. They oppose further escalation and funding of the conflict. But J.D. Vance is saying we should go bomb Iran like it's never been bombed before. Trump is saying that Israel should bomb Iran's nuclear facilities, which would surely set off like World War III in the Middle East. So, are we trading one potentially fatal conflict, fatal for all of humanity, for another with this new generation of so-called anti-establishment figures that are kind of rising within the Trump world right now?
Yes, I think there's a big risk that that's what we're doing. And we're trading one world war for, but they're all, the Democrats are on board for the same things. Democrats are on board for all those things, bombing Iran. They're funding the bombing of Lebanon right now. They're on board for all of it. So the only thing that gives me hope, honest to God, is that they're trying to kill Trump. And why would they be trying to kill Trump? And who's they? The deep state, obviously. So that first one was, obviously was a setup. It had to come. That was set up. And we don't want to put Secret Servicemen on a. It's got too much of a slanted roof. Okay. Anybody? They saw the guy 3 times and they didn't do anything. Nobody puts a gun out the window and says, "Hey, get on the ground." Nobody does that. They see the guy and they go, "Oh, he disappeared." You mean he disappeared? You mean like Doug Henning? You mean like a magician? You mean like Chris Angel Mind Freak disappeared? He disappeared? Or he went around a corner and you guys like, fuck it. That's just a guy with a scope and a backpack. He's in a secured area. He shouldn't be. They saw him 3 times. Did nothing. They did nothing. So the crowd saw him before they did. So anyway, that's what the point is. That's what gives me hope. I told the same thing to Chris Hedges. I go, there's got to be a reason they're trying. There's got to be a reason why the CIA lied for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and they didn't lie for Donald Trump. There's got to be a reason why they tried to kill him twice. The second guy is obvious CIA op. So there's something to that. Now, Tucker Carlson says this is all because they're afraid Trump's going to do one less war than them. And I wouldn't doubt it. But I think the bigger thing is that Trump had the crazy idea, because he doesn't come from politics. He had the crazy idea that the president is supposed to run the Pentagon and our war policy, and the president's supposed to, and then the intelligence community, the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA is supposed to work for the president. They do not. They are the permanent state. They work for the oligarchs. They don't work for the president. And how do I know that? Because Chuck Schumer revealed that on Rachel Maddow in 2016, when he said that Donald Trump's being really stupid to criticize the intelligence community because they have 6 ways a Sunday to get back at you.
He's taking these shots, this antagonism,
Yep.
this taunting to the
Let me
intelligence
tell
community.
you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know,
to?
but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going. Look at the Russian hacking.
What he revealed in that moment, that's called a gaffe because he accidentally told the truth. And what he revealed is that the president has to worry about the intelligence community. They don't work for him. He works for them. And the normal follow-up question would have been, well, who do they work for? But of course, Rachel Maddow was the journalist interviewing him, and she's not going to ask that question because she works for the same people that the CIA works for. A handful of oligarchs, the Western oligarchy and billionaires that run the Western world. The same people who ran COVID, the same people running the Ukraine war, the same people who ran the Syrian war, the same people who invented Al Qaeda and ISIS, the same people. Same people did Iraq, same people did Libya. Those are the same people. That's who Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper and Wolf Blitzer work for. That's who the New York Times. They all are owned by the same people. And so that's the only. I have to have some hope. I realize we're in the end stage republic when we're ending the way all republics end, right? All empires end. We're overextending ourselves militarily, and we are hollowing out our own country. We got people living under every bridge. Half the country can't afford a house. Half the country can't afford a $400 emergency. Most workers live paycheck to paycheck. When we have an emergency in the United States and people get wiped out, they offer them $700, which they have to apply for. And in the meantime, they're giving hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars to war. That's the way all empires end. And there's no stopping it. Eisenhower wasn't kidding when he said we must resist the undue influence, whether sought or unsought, of the military-industrial complex. He wasn't joking around. That guy was a 4-star general. He saw what was happening. He knew what was going on. And JFK tried to stand up to it, and they killed him. So that was that. And up until Trump, every president was vetted by the intelligence community, which, they're in bed with the political parties, and because they're all run by the donor class. And that's who the intelligence communities work for. They work the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. They don't work for the president. They work for the donor class.
No, I think you're 100% correct. I mean, I've said it and you've said it for the past several years now. The reason why the establishment hates Trump, the reason why the deep state, this decentralized body of unelected financiers loves to attack Trump is because he poses just a fraction of a percentage of a challenge to their power and to their beliefs and to what they are doing across the world. One less war under Trump actually is a threat to the deep state in their eyes. And you look at what's happening. You got this week, you have 17 billion to Israel, 17 billion to Ukraine. People want Trump to succeed and be that powerful force that actually does pose a large threat to the deep state. I think as much as they want America to fail and something beautiful and truly partisan to rise out of the chaos and the unrest that would ensue if the state were to collapse. But given the way things are going, I mean, how much longer and how can the American state continue to sustain itself?
I really don't know. It would require the American people coming together and rising up. Unfortunately, a lot of our unions are corrupted, right? They're in the same class. They're class loyal. The people who run them, right? Just like the journalists today, right? When I was a kid, journalists used to come from blue collar backgrounds, and now they all come from Ivy League schools, and they're handpicked by billionaires like Jeff Bezos. And why did they pick journalists from Ivy League schools? Because they know they're going to be class loyal. I mean, the guy that Jeff Bezos picked to cover We picked Dave Weigel, a guy to cover progressive politics in the United States. You know what Dave Weigel is? Dave Weigel went to an Ivy League school, and when he was at that school, he was the editor of their school newspaper, and he led pro-Iraq war rallies on their campus. That's the guy that Jeff Bezos, of course, picks to cover progressive politics, of course. So yeah, I remember they would love a civil war. The oligarchs, they don't care. They remember chaos always favors the establishment. Chaos favors the establishment to make people desperate, and that's what all those Black Lives Matters, that whole summer of riots, the protests, that was all to make people afraid, and afraid to vote for Donald Trump, afraid of civil war, chaos. That's what that was. And I think some of it was authentic. A lot of it was, just like January 6th, was instigated by the FBI. We know there was agent provocateurs. We know that. That's not, pallets of bricks all of a sudden show up in the middle of the street. So I mean, that's their MO. They do that all the time: infiltrate and agent provocateur. So don't forget that. They want you to feel desperate. They want you to feel afraid. That's why they keep telling you to wear. That's why they told you to wear masks during COVID. The fear, fear, fear. And we have to resist it. And we have to but I honestly, I have a little. I don't think it will. I think this republic's coming to an end. I don't know what that will look like and what will happen, but it's not going to be good. They already want to get rid of they're already almost successfully have gotten rid of our First Amendment. So we don't have free speech anymore. And we have a little sliver of it on Twitter. So the greatest trick that they can do is they get half the country to go along with it, like that's the right thing, to turn their own backs on their own constitution, as if they're moral to do it. That's the real trick. And of course, it's get reinforced by people like Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel. And, those are supposed to be the people that are supposed to be poking holes in the establishment narrative and the status quo. No, that if they did, they wouldn't have those jobs. Yeah, if Jon Stewart actually told you the truth about the Ukraine war, he would not be welcome on Comedy Central. He told you the truth about where the COVID virus came from, and for that he had to hang a medal on a Nazi, and then he had to give a tongue bath to war criminals like Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton, and then he had to lie to you about Ukraine. And he gladly will. He still won't tell you the truth about it, or 9/11, or anything. So there's a lot of gatekeepers, and the people who I thought would stand up certainly aren't. Cornel West just told people to vote for Kamala Harris in the swing states. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, he tweeted out, if you're in a swing state, I recognize that a vote against Trump is not equal to a vote against Harris. And that you have to, there's a lot of other things involved, like a women's right to choose, but I'll kind of say, I'm like, exactly what everyone predicted. You would tell them to vote for the Democrat. That's exactly what he did. He lives in an ivory tower, and he has for 45 years. And he doesn't pick a vice president who's a worker. He picks someone who's another academic blowhard like him, out of touch.
So with Cornel West saying that everyone in the swing states should go ahead and vote for Genocide Joe's VP, that leaves us with Jill Stein as the only third-party candidate who's challenging the establishment two-party system at the moment. Jill Stein recently came out and condemned Vladimir Putin and Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, as war criminals whose actions, according to her, are equal in scope to people like Benjamin Netanyahu committing a Holocaust in Gaza and taking us to World War III in the Middle East. What do you have to say about the candidacy of Jill Stein and the Greens and what they're doing right now?
I've said for a while now, it's been clear to me that they're controlled opposition. They've been successfully infiltrated. They've been turned into a LGBTQ organization, which is also to divide us. And they sometimes dabble in environmentalism, and they certainly aren't for workers' rights. They were for forcing experimental medical treatments, mandating them for workers, which is the opposite of what those people are supposed to be. So they're the opposite of what, but at least Shama Sawant, who's backing Jill Stein, came out and said, hey, yeah, we're here to make sure Kamala Harris doesn't win. You have to pay a price for funding a genocide. And I'm for that. So if you want to vote for Jill Stein to make Kamala Harris pay a price, because they have to. I was telling you earlier about that Clinton hitman, that dreg of society, Peter Dow. I saw him say this just the other day. He said that we have to make Kamala Harris pay a price for funding a genocide. You can't let her slaughter babies and then give her your vote. I saw another Palestinian say, what are you going to do? You're going to step over the corpse of a dead Palestinian baby to reward Kamala Harris with your vote? There's no lesser evil there. And I agree with that. You have to make her pay a price. And then someone said, well, what about Trump? What if Trump does the same thing? Then we oppose him too. Then we oppose him if he becomes president. At least we'll have a better chance of getting Democrats to protest against Donald Trump. They're not going to protest Kamala Harris. They're going to say things like, she's not the president of the Middle East. So I'm on board with that. So, as unbelievably flawed as Jill Stein and the Green Party is, you want to vote for Jill Stein to inflict, to keep Kamala Harris and not reward her with the presidency and make the Democrats pay. I'm all for that. I'm all for it. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. You were attacked by NBC News this week. They said that you're a Russian disinformation artist or some shit. What do you think that?
I guarantee you, my video about that. She's a disinformation specialist. She's one of the worst. That woman who did the article. So she just works for the intelligence community, the war machine, Wall Street, to slander people.
So, Jimmy, you were attacked by NBC News this week. I want to talk about this. There was a so-called journalist who's a disinformation expert at NBC News who reached out to you.
So I guarantee you my video got more views than her article.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I mean, your show is wildly popular, and I don't think there are much of any Americans who are reading the disinformation expert column at NBC News. But, given the attacks on you, you've had many attacks. This is one of a string of long attacks against you. But given the, recent FBI raid against Scott Ritter, we can look to the Israeli arrest and beating of Jeremy Lafredo, an American citizen and journalist who was operating in Israel, and also the Ukrainian government's killing of Gonzalo Lira, another American citizen. Would you say it's fair to say that we are living in a new McCarthyite 2.0 era? How much do you think this could get worse and escalate as time goes on?
Yes, we've been for a while. Yeah, yes, it didn't just start. It's been for a while. Yeah, I mean, how long ago did they fire Tucker Carlson? How long's that been? I mean, how long they did Russiagate? What the hell was Russiagate? That they stopped inviting Glenn Greenwald on MSNBC and CNN as soon as he started debunking Russiagate. That was that. He's persona non grata, and they painted him as a right winger, and anybody who told the truth about that. So yeah. So we've been in. This is the new McCarthy era for sure. Look what they do to anybody. They call you free speech absolutist. You know who else was? Thomas Jefferson.
Earlier today, Kamala Harris announced that she wants to go on the Joe Rogan Experience, the #1 podcast in the world. You're a good friend of Joe Rogan. How do you think this will go for Kamala Harris if she, in fact, decides to pull the plug and do it?
I can't imagine it going well for her. She just talks in word salads, and Joe's he's pretty good at, staying focused. My only fear is that he will go out of his way to try to be fair. You know what I mean? But what does that tell you? What does that tell you that she's willing to go on Joe Rogan? She's going to go on Fox, I heard, Brett Baer. First of all, they agree on all the horrible stuff, right? They agree on Brett Baer and her agree on the Ukraine war. They agree on Russia. They agree on funding Israel. They agree on slaughtering Palestine. They agree on all the horrible things. They agree on shutting down protesters on college campuses. It's like, having Republicans and Democrats. It's like having your parents who are divorced, but they all agree on sending you to military school. It doesn't matter that they pretend to hate each other. So that's the problem with their but why do you think she's agreeing to go on Brett Baer or Joe Rogan? Because they know they're losing. She's losing with Hispanics. Think about that, for F's sake. So, but again, if Donald Trump, I do not think he will be allowed to win. Why? These people will slaughter people for money. They hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. They don't care. They'll let Americans go without health care, which we still do. You still get, if you get sick, and you go bankrupt in America if you get sick. They don't care. Why wouldn't they throw an election? They throw elections all around the world and they brag about it. Why wouldn't they do that? Don't be now who's being naive, Kay?
Jimmy, I know you're a busy man. I don't want to keep you too long, so I got one last question for you. I started off this conversation by asking you the question, do you regret not running for president? And I'm 100% serious. Every time we have dinner together, it's something I bring up. I understand your concerns, and they're extremely valid. I think anyone who's ever considered running for president in a way that's going to challenge the establishment has probably had those same concerns. But I'm curious, if not you, do you think that there might be a leader or a person in America today whose characteristics, their views, the way that they lead might emulate the type of person that you hope to eventually come into power in America to actually begin to fix our nation's problems?
I like that the leader of the Longshoremen's Union. I think that I like that guy. He knows how to get stuff done. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has great men have great flaws. I think someone like Tucker Carlson would be an immense improvement. But you see what they do to those people, right? Look what they did to Trump. They would do the exact same thing. They would say he's a traitor to our country. They've already done that. So, I think Bobby Kennedy has a lot of great qualities. He has an unbelievable fatal flaw. And his fatal flaw is his allegiance to Israel first. And that's a fatal flaw in my estimation. And I can't figure it out. Who knows? But it doesn't make any sense. But the more, let me just say this, MK Ultra is real. And you think they stopped doing that stuff. Now who's being naive, Kay? The whole culture is an op, right? We find out that, the hippie movement, remember the anti-war protesters used to be button-down people and workers, and then we're going to flood it with, flood it with a bunch of hippies and make people think they're all stinky drug addict hippie. That's how it works. Gloria Steinem worked for the CIA. That whole Ms. Magazine, feminism, the whole feminism thing, run by the intelligence community. You think they stopped doing Mockingbird Media? Do you think that's over? Now they don't even hide it. They used to bring on someone who was a spoke. They used to have to try to buy off journalists. Now they just bring on the head of the CIA right on their news show. Hey, tell us what's going on. You're supposed to bring on somebody who debunks what they're saying. They just bring them right on. Who's in the green room of news shows? The heads of the intelligence community, the heads of the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. It's amazing. And they bring them on as if they're truth tellers instead of what they are, spies and liars and enemies of the people. So, I mean, look how they went crazy when Trump was rude to Jim Acosta. They didn't have none of that for when Julian Assange was in prison. None of it. It's all a psyop. You're living in one big psyop. And the country, as far as I'm concerned, is almost already over. They won't give you health care. Trump and Bobby Kennedy aren't promising giving people health care like the rest of the Western world. Nobody is. The Democrats brag, I'm gonna veto it. They even bring it up. Remember, Joe Biden ran on a public option. Nobody even talked about it after he got elected. They never even brought it up. They didn't even bring it up. So, and now you got phonies like Nina Turner, race baiting Nina Turner, out there gaslighting people, sheep herding people back into the Democratic Party. She lied about Medicare for all and forced to vote. Remember that? She lied about forced to vote and gaslighted people. And she's out there today tweeting, oh, if Kamala Harris would just embrace Medicare for all, she'd win the election. You phony. You're such a piece of garbage. That's what the Democrats have. We have garbage people who sheep herd you back into the Democratic Party, like Bernie Sanders, AOC, Nina Turner, just garbage people.
Garbage people. I think that sums up U.S. politics in a nutshell in this very moment, except for people like Jimmy Dore, the truth tellers out there. So thank you so much, Jimmy Dore, for joining us on today's program of Legitimate Targets. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. I know I did. Jimmy, you can find on YouTube still, if you can believe it. He's got well over 1 million subscribers there. You can find him on all podcast streaming platforms. You can find him on Rumble, on X. He's a great follow. He's hilarious. And given the seriousness and severity of the crises that we are living in right now, it's always good to laugh once in a while. So I highly encourage you to check out his work. And thank you, Jimmy, again, so much for joining us today. Folks, it's been another great episode. I will see you all back here tomorrow for another incredible show. Until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to share our videos, share our clips. We're on TikTok, Telegram, Instagram, Rumble, and X right here. So until next time, God bless you all. Have a great rest of your night, and I'll see you all back here very soon.